This computer. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are out there in the world listening to this. This is Rebecca Lee from Maybe It's Mercury, teaching people how to detox from heavy metals without getting hurt. So today I'm talking with Lis Smedegaard Andersen. And Lis is a medical doctor. She's a rheumatologist who is talking with us from Denmark. On top of her medical degree, she got a PhD in immunology because it's a fact that many of the chronic diseases of rheumatology are immune modulated. She says that she was different from many of her colleagues because she was always very holistically motivated and interested in the root causes behind her patients' problems. Ultimately, though, it was her own health that got her interested in the topic of heavy metal toxicity. So, good day, Lis.
Good day.
Good day. Why don't you start off by describing why your health issues, what it was about your health issues that brought you to consider heavy metals?
Yeah, it's it's a long story to explain, but until 2008, I felt well. I was strong and had a leading. I was a leading physician at a rheumatism hospital and had no physical problems. And then I got a ruptured appendicitis with peritonitis and was very ill. And after that, I recovered after a couple of months. But then in the beginning, I felt well again. I avoided having any abscesses. That was very fortunate. And but then I started getting problems after eating. And I searched for an answer and found out that it might be a gluten intolerance. So I stopped gluten and dairy and sugar, and it helped a lot for a while. But then it sort of faded and I got bloated again easily after every meal. And then started a journey where I was examined by doctors and dietists and surgeons, and they found no cause. And I was given the diagnosis of irritable bowel disease.
Right. Yep.
And unfortunately, it just got worse. But I was recommended to take a FODMAP diet, so I took a FODMAP diet, and it helped some. But despite diminishing the repertoire of my foods, I was slowly getting worse and had many hours. I had to lie on the couch every day, and it was a problem doing my work. I had to stop being a leader because that was impossible. But I continued as a doctor, and eventually I had to retire simply because I didn't have the energy because of all the stomach problems. And then I started, of course, searching for an answer. I couldn't get it in the conventional world.
Mm-hmm.
And then I fell over Mark Hyman, functional medical doctor. I guess some people know him.
Yep.
He's a well-renowned doctor.
Yep.
And he had a broken brain series that I listened to. And I thought, luckily, I don't have a broken brain. I just got a stomach problem. But many of the things that he talked about was also stomach problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so he inspired some of his guests, among one called Raphael Kelman. Raphael Kelman is a doctor in New York. He had a microbiome diet, so I tried that one, which is where you remove all foods that could be irritating, and then you re-inoculate with good bacteria, and then you reintroduce the foods. And I did that for 2 months. It was a giant work. But I only discovered that then I also got intolerant to potato and eggs and some other things. So it got worse. But at the same time, I was in contact with a master of science in nutrition. We had a course we did together for some patients with autoimmune disease, and she helped me, and she took some tests, and then had some tests that showed that I had histamine intolerance.
Yeah, you get
So
everything.
I
Huh?
I started taking Daosine, which is a diamine oxidase, which helped. Actually, my weight was spiraling down because I couldn't. Every
Eat.
time I ate, I was just bloated and
Mm.
fatigued and could not do anything, and also malnourished. So that helped some, and then finally, she also made a lot of tests to. She is an expert in irritable bowel disease, so she made a lot of tests, and I also saw the scheme of what are all the differential diagnosis for IBS, and we went all through all of them. It was no, 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 no. So the last possibility was Mercury.
So wait a second, you looked at all the causes of IBS and it was all
Yeah,
no,
and we
except
we made we made we made tests as a functional tests for it, and there was none of it that could give a sufficient answer to my question why I had IBS. So the last one was IBS, and then I heard from Mark Hyman in the podcast that he said, if you try everything, you do everything,
and nothing works.
and nothing works, you really have to consider Mercury. So that's when I started considering Mercury, and I think it was in summer 2019 I bought the Amalgam Illness book
How did you find it?
because I started searching for Mercury.
On the internet? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I fell over the chelation group on Facebook.
Well, wait a second. What you
I found the chelation, the Andy Cutler chelation group
on
on
face
Facebook.
the Facebook one?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, go on.
So I bought this amalgam illness book and felt it pretty overwhelming. And then I thought, well, what can I do? I have to start trying getting. I had 7 amalgams left in my mouth then. In the beginning, I had 11 or 12, I think. And I had always thought that it was safe to have all this amalgam in my mouth, but then because I was so nervous about getting the 3 big amalgam fillings drilled out, I had heard a Mercury detoxification summit where there was a German biochemist, pretty high ranked. So I contacted her and said, what can I do to protect myself when I get this amalgam removed? And she recommended to take DMSA, 500 milligram just before, right after, and 2 hours later.
Oh boy.
So I bought DMSA and I took it, and I got the amalgam out. I thought it was holistic, also who did the cover dam and everything, but they didn't. It was not sufficient, and in the hours after, I felt okay. But the next day,
Mm.
I began feeling really weird, and I have to tell that when I read the amalgam illness book about the symptoms, I thought, well, it doesn't tell that much about gastrointestinal symptoms. And luckily, I haven't got all these central nervous or peripheral nervous systems problems. But I got them right away after that. I ended up in acute mercury toxicity, which was terrifying.
So the DMSA probably made all that
Yeah, and then later I
horrible
got the explanation by reading the amalgam in this book that Andy writes that if you take DMSA and you have Mercury also, I don't know where I read it, but I think it was in this book. All these shovels that are drilled out, they get into your gastrointestinal system, and normally they're just getting through and excreted by the poop. But if you get a chelator, then the body starts dissolving it, and it's absorbed.
Yeah, they put it into solution.
And it was 3 big amalgams, so I was really, really, really sick, and I got a lot of CNS systems,
Mm-mm.
and plus my bloating got extreme. I couldn't poop, so all my normal systems were tripled,
Yeah.
and then also all the other CNS systems, feeling dementia, memory problems, coordination problems, temperature regulation problems, sensitivity problems. I got my arm felt anesthetic all up to the upper
Yeah.
part of my arms and legs too. And yeah, it was, and I got mentally. And I remember I took a photo of myself when I was lying there feeling so fantastically ill. And I looked at the photo and my eyes were dead.
Your eyes were, how many years ago was this? When did
That
this?
was in 2019.
Oh,
So after that, it was a hard way of recognizing that it was Mercury. But from then on, I was not in doubt. This is Mercury.
it was.
And
Mm-hmm.
also, I read then that Mercury is a very good mast cell activator. And mast cells are those cells in your gastrointestinal lining cells. There's a lot of mast cells there, and also in the skin and respiratory system. And mast cells produce histamine. And if you got too much histamine, and when you eat, histamine is activated. There's histamine in food, so that's I think that's one of the major mechanisms in my
So you got
stomach
histamine,
problems.
mast cell activation, then you added the food on, it was just too much. Is that what?
Yeah, yeah. If you, I don't know if you know if it's well known about histamine intolerance, but you can normally the body can degrade histamine.
Yes.
But if your body is if your gastrointestinal system is sick, you cannot make this enzyme which degrade it.
Okay.
So the system is filled with histamine, and the next thing that happens is that histamine gets out into the blood circulation, and then it goes out and it makes you enormously brain fogged and fatigued
Mm-mm. So is
and
this enzyme the one with, so the mercury's interfering with an enzyme that's supposed to deal with the histamine? Is that what you're saying?
as a mercury is when there's a lot of mercury in the mast cells, they are hyper excitable. Also, when there's a stimulus to the mast cell, every food element will activate almost a mast cell. Mast cells are in the lining layer, and they are sort of our primitive immune defense against everything. It's also the mast cells who are very strongly activated in COVID.
Yes, I know that's
But
interesting.
mercury, if you're mercury intoxicated, your mast cells are extraordinarily easily excitable.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
when they're excited, they release histamine plus 250 other biochemical substances which induce inflammation.
So is it, do you think that there's an underlying mercury problem for these people who are getting all their reactions from the COVID and the
Excuse me, I didn't hear your question.
do you think that there's an underlying mercury problem for all the people who are getting these symptoms after COVID and from that product?
I think people who are mercury intoxicated are much more exposed to problems. Yes.
And Andy
That
told me once that I asked him what percentage of the population, I didn't say population of where, but I think the United States had mercury problems. He said between 30 and 50%.
25%.
30, between 30 and 50, he said.
Yeah. It's probably very much age related.
Yeah, because it builds up as you age.
Yeah. Also because amalgam, I don't know if you put amalgam in teeth in America, but we don't in Denmark anymore.
In certain, yeah, but there's other ways to get exposed to mercury.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There's also a lot of tuna fish eating that's problematic. But at least that's the way I understand it. My problem. And it's yeah. So then after also it was when I had this problem, it was difficult because it was not much knowledge about histamine intolerance at that time. But Alison Vickery, a person from Australia, wrote something about it, and also it was coherent with me getting a lot of release when I took diamine oxidase, which cleaves histamine and inactivates it. I still have to take a diamine oxidase before every meal.
Is that a
Then
vitamin?
I can eat.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, I get easily bloated because you can't avoid getting histamine activation when you eat.
No, no. So you got amalgam illness, and you started chelating at some point there?
Yeah, then we went into the COVID in the January 2020.
Oh, this is pretty.
So and I was 14 days after this acute mercury. I I was so frightened that I had to register every day 15 or 20, 25 different symptoms I had got on a visual analog scale on how bad was it, because I had to register if it was subsiding or whatever. And after
Your own,
40, and
your own information.
it did reside some, and some
Yeah, it does.
some were. And for instance, I totally lost my smell
Yeah.
and my taste and smell a week or something like that, and then it returned again. But I also started 14 days after this acute mercury incident. I suddenly started coughing up small gray lumps. And I thought, what is that? I didn't have fever or anything. It was just some dry cough where I went up. And then I'm a scientifically oriented. So I started investigating and I put it on the paper with some small pins. And then I could see it was simply bronchial cast. I was coughing up. So I had also got a chemical bronchiolitis from the mercury.
What are bronchial casts?
Bronchial cast, that's in the lungs you got the airways, and the bronchial cast comes from the lower part of the airway system, the channels where it's simply the lining cells that are
So,
released, and it's so you can simply see it as a tree.
yes.
Do you understand what I mean? Yeah.
Yep, yes.
So, and after 3 days, I suddenly got fever, and then I got an infection. And it was a pneumonia, and it was a bacteria, doesn't matter what it's called, but it's a bacteria which is only seen by immunosuppressed people or people with very severe chronic obstructive lung disease, which I didn't have. So it was in accordance with me being very immune suppressed. And then we hit the COVID, and I got antibiotics and slowly got better, but was and then I started reading the amalgam illness book. What can I do? And I was taking a multivitamins and some supplements at that time, but then I started supplementing as it is recommended to do, and that was the only thing I could do because it took 4 months before the Danish dentists opened up for working again because it was closed down. So for 4 months, I started supplementing myself with primary first minerals and then vitamins. And I started dosing up as Andy recommends. And it was a fantastic experience because I could really feel how every supplement worked.
4-4 really helped you a lot with the symptoms.
Yeah, it was amazing, and also a relief to feel that something worked. And then
Were your teeth cleaned out by then? Was the work completed by then?
my amalgam,
Yes.
my amalgam working. No, I still had 4 amalgams, and when they opened up, I had 2 amalgams removed again from in a way very safe way. I found a doctor, a dentist in another big city in Denmark, and after getting it removed, despite I had C vitamin infusions and
Okay.
and it was covered them and oxygen and everything, I could just feel how much this mercury symptom was as it went up again, and I counteracted it by taking extra selenium.
Okay.
And I think I also took extra minerals and vitamins and C vitamin. I had liposomal C vitamin also.
Hmm.
And then it after a week it went away. But it also the singing in the ear, it came really high. So, and also bloating again, up again. So
This is what happened after you went to the dentist again.
yeah. So despite all this safety around taking it out, I couldn't. I was so sensitive to probably the mercury vapor, so
Yes.
I really it it was really noticeable. And after I think it was in June, I got the last 2 out, and then I had bite wings made and
Right. Yep.
loaded them up, and there was one speck Chris Kazarian found, and I found a dentist who I could recommend. I could convince to take it out. Also a challenge, and then I also, in my despair, I thought that I need some really top expertise help. So I also started being a patient and at Mark Hyman's clinic in Connecticut, the Autoimmune Center,
What happened with that?
and had consultations there, and it was very good. And I had a lot of tests made to try and analyze my body system. I had a lot of DNA tests made to see how my genetic detoxification systems work, and that was very helpful. Also, I had a test called the Dutch test, where you measure also the cortisol
Yes.
levels during the day and
Yeah. How are they? How are
estrogen.
cortisol levels during the day?
Yeah, estrogen, progesterone, melatonin, and DHEA. And
Mhm.
I was really low in testosterone and DHA, and yeah, it was not strange that I felt extremely tired because my testosterone and all that, it was really low. So I was recommended to start DHEA and the DNA gene test was a good was good for me because it showed which is called SNPs, as which variation you have in different genes, and it recommends which vitamins that you are especially you especially need to work with that gene, and then you need to have this and this and this. So I started also supplementing with in respect to these genes that are specifically needed, and it was really helpful.
Okay.
And then they recommended me to try the silver, hvad hedder det, quicksilver
Oh,
detox. Yeah, but I didn't. I said that I don't want to do that. I want to follow the Cutler, and that was also okay. So I started chelating in September 2020.
2020. So that was
Yeah,
5 years ago.
yeah, it is. It's crazy. And I started with DMPS,
Okay.
1 milligram, and I got totally weird. I felt like a zombie, and for 10 hours.
One
And,
milligram of DMPS made you feel like a zombie?
yeah, completely. Only 1 milligram.
Oh,
So I thought, well, I'm probably pretty intoxicated. And there's also different doses interval which you recommended depending on how intoxicated you are. So I thought, oh, okay, then I'll start with DMSA 1 milligram, and
yeah.
that was better, but it still was too much. So I ended up diminishing it down to 0.1 milligram DMSA per dose.
So you were one of those people that confuse us so much.
Yeah. And then, and actually, also to Elizabeth Boham, which is called, to a big surprise, I said, well, I feel relief when I take it. But after chelation, when I'm taking the DMSA, I feel better, but after I don't feel better.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, but then I fought a long match of. I also had some methylation problems. I was not very good at methylating, and she helped me, and we did in cooperation find out what was wrong with what I should do to improve my methylation. And then after a year, I had managed to increase the dose to 0.5 milligrams.
Jeez.
And then I remember, I think I wrote something about it. Then Robert Hal Smith, he had a very dry comment. I don't exactly remember what it was, but it was something like, "You will never get Mercury out with that dose."
Yeah. So what did you do?
So I think, well, it sounds correct. It sounds like I'm on a 1,000-year journey, and that's not that's not right.
Was anything,
So
were any of your symptoms getting better though with
no,
those?
actually not really. I just felt better when I was around, but I didn't get much. But it's confusing because every time I found the right supplements and right doses, and then I felt relief. So it's confusing to, but in generally I wasn't better. And then Nikki Luttrell posted a picture in the group on how hidden specks are much more easily visible on periapical X-rays than on bite wings. She had some pictures, and then I thought, wow, okay. So that makes sense.
Went back to the dentist.
That makes sense because the X-ray has to go through a lot of plastic this way, but this way is a thinner layer. So I managed to find a dentist who would make periapical X-rays of all the teeth where I had mercury, and it was all replaced by plastic fillings. And she was pretty skeptic, but when I showed her the picture, she was, wow, thank you very much for showing me that. So she was okay with doing it. And then we looked at the pictures and we found 3 teeth where there were areas that could be suspicious. It was not obvious, but there were something a bit more lighter, a little more brighter than the plastic. And then she had these she had the glasses on, that enlarge the what she can see. And she drilled down and she could see it was amalgam. She found amalgam down beneath 2 fillings. And then there was a third tooth where the amalgam was actually placed on top of it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I was gonna say,
on top
adjust
of
your
it.
camera, please. There you're back. You were falling down slowly, slowly. So
On
the
top of
dentist
one
found
tooth
some amalgam specks.
in
How
the
big were
groove.
they? Were they tiny?
Pardon?
How big were the specks?
I said they were. I would say it was. They were not big, but she could identify them visually.
Okay. So did she take
Um,
you?
and she also found on a groove on upon the teeth, the big inner teeth, that there was actually there was some amalgam not taken out, and that was actually by a doctor who was focused on it. So
Oh,
yeah,
so much for your dentist, huh?
yeah, but it's just tell me that it's a difficult thing, and afterwards I was really, oh Lord, I hope it helps. And then in 5 weeks I could increase the chelator dose from 0.5 to 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 12.5 milligram, and that was just like a miracle.
Okay, like a miracle, yes.
Yeah. And then for 10 months, I actually felt pretty okay. I could stay on the 12.5 milligram chelator dose. And I started, of course, with DMSA first, and then ALA. And but then I hit the dump after 10 months of being on a honeymoon. And then I've been in the dump for 2 years.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah. And in August, I thought, perhaps perhaps it's my own fault that it took so long time. But in August, I thought, well, I had a combination of 9.5 milligram ALA and 3.25 milligram DMSA. I combined that two. Then I thought, well, I'll try and increase the DMSA because I also got lead in my in my in my problem. And I increased the DMSA and slowly, and then after reaching, I don't exactly, but for the last since October and until now, I've been able to increase my total chelator dose. It was 12.5 then, up to 40 milligrams now.
So how long did you chelate with the amalgam left over in your mouth? How many months did that go on for?
The specs were there for 50 for 1 year,
Here, see, because
55
yeah,
55 weeks.
I think that people who have that experience have a harder jump.
Yeah, yeah. Because also when I was looking at exactly the time periods up to our speak here, that wow, but for 10 months I felt okay and could be on 12.5 milligram, but after 10 months I had to go down to 3 milligrams chelator dose, and then I've been low for two years.
So you've been chelating at that small dose?
Yeah, yeah, and had this speck ghost going on.
Yeah,
There more.
worrying that you didn't get everything.
Yeah. So
Well,
so it's
yeah.
just fantastic to have got this far.
So I hope to hear that some of your symptoms have improved.
Yeah, they have. I would say, as I said before, that many of the supplements, vitamins, minerals, the right doses, not too high doses, not too low doses. As a, when I find the right balance, I can really feel improvement. So that's not the chelation, but generally I think that. Or actually, I'm convinced that I am better because this summer I could bike. I haven't been able to bike. I didn't have the balance at all. This summer I could bathe in the sea, and in Denmark, summer temperatures are 64 Fahrenheit, so it's not hot. But the other summers, just if I put out a big toe in my water, I was just getting chills, you know. So I was really cold intolerant, and I'm much more capable of concentrating, and I'm often very surprised by, hey, that was really easy doing it. It's usually difficult to do that. Things are getting more and more easy, and I'm having more energy. I began this summer also being able to make physical training and strength training, and also my bloating for I think 1.5, 2 years ago, my stomach was bloated constantly, and I was not able to wear a bra because it simply was too uncomfortable, and often I couldn't close my pants, so I had to wear I don't know what's it called. Those who keep up your pants.
Oh, suspenders.
Yeah, suspenders. Yeah, and and now it's seldom that my stomach is a problem. Um, and also I'm less intolerant to food. In the beginning, I could not tolerate kale or also any of these high tireable foods or legumes at all. I could not tolerate it. My stomach just said no, and I got bloated immediately. So I thought it was my stomach which was intolerant to it. So I didn't think I was thiol intolerant. But at a certain time, I made a post, and some of the admins, I don't remember her name, but she said, your problem sounds pretty much like when I found out I was thiol intolerant. And then I started focusing on it, and of course it tricked me because the symptoms, when you take a high thiol, the symptoms are there half a day or three-quarters of a day later on, then you get these redistribution.
Reaction, yes, yes.
Yeah, so that has helped me a lot. That found out that actually I should stay away from. And also, I read in your fantastic books here that the lower dose you tolerate, the more thiol intolerant you probably are.
Yes.
So it fits together. Yeah.
Acid, because it is a thiol,
Yeah, it is the thiol. Yeah, yeah. So yeah. and I feel Then I have it's also
It's sort of a
and my
neuropathy
my sense my neuropathy has diminished. So now I'm only, as I can pinch myself here, I don't feel it. But if I go up here, I can feel it. So it's reducing
thing.
also.
Yeah, that's from the chelation. That's not just vitamins that are.
No, that's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
you're improving because I mean I like to
Yeah,
think from chelation, like
yeah. It is. It is. As a chelation is doing its job. I don't. I'm not in doubt at all.
you're not in
I'm
doubt.
not in doubt at all.
That's what we
But
like to.
it's hard to see say precisely what it is doing. But also because the change is not abrupt. It's gradually getting better.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
and it's also kind of a two-step forward, one step back,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
two step
yeah.
it takes, yeah, it's kind of a
It's really a hard learning process.
yeah, you certainly learn a lot. You learn a lot
Yeah,
of all kinds of
yeah,
things doing this.
yes,
Yeah.
for sure. And then I was also because I had so many intolerances, food intolerances. I have a lot of there's a lot of food that I can't eat. So and I had been fighting for some time with a lot of sugar craving. Even when I had a meal, I had to eat one or two apples or one or two bananas afterwards before I felt uh, that
That's
I
done enough.
was
Yeah.
satisfied. Yeah, and then I heard a podcast also by Mark Hyman who said that vanadium is important for insulin to function. Um, and then I thought, well, what about vanadium? I had bought by incident a vanadium tablet. Then I thought, well, why don't I just try it?
Yeah, that's how you have to do it.
So I took, and I didn't check the dose or anything. So I just took 1 milligram vanadium. And that was really a surrealistic experience because at that time, I think it's 2 years ago, I felt I felt I won't say I was depressed, but I was in kind of I felt frustrated. I felt unhappy. I felt everything was problematic and difficult. And then I took this 1 milligram tablet, and within hours, my mood changed 150 degrees to being happy. Everything is uncomplicated, uh,
So it had to
and
do with
it was just amazing.
it had to do with the sugar metabolism that made you feel.
I think it has, and as the insulin needs a lot of minerals to work.
Yeah.
And I also had experience with molybdenum, which I paused for a period, and that went really. As I paused it together with chromium because I thought, well, I probably don't need them. But when I paused them, I felt I was really very, very sugar craving and very irritated in my brain and
I
couldn't
would say the
tolerate
sugar craving
noise.
has
And
to do with
pardon?
the I always felt that the sugar craving has to do with the bad guys in your gut, demand.
Yeah, I'm convinced. I'm not at all in doubt for my case, as we all got a different biochemical
So
systems.
different. Yes, yes.
Yeah, so it's not possible to say, but if you read about it, chromium, molybdenum, vanadium, and also manganese, they are all very important for insulin to work.
Hmm.
And so after this vanadium, which I must say, if anybody wants to try vanadium, you have to do it very carefully because you have to read about it because big doses can be dangerous for you. You can get cancer if you could take too much. But you get symptoms of diarrhea, and then you know you're taking too much. So you have to control it so you don't have symptoms of it. And also, the only way I got vanadium in my food was from mushrooms, and I was eating a lot of mushrooms, so my body knew where to find it. So and manganese, I couldn't understand why I needed to eat chocolate all the time, and that was because I needed manganese, and actually had a test. I think manganese was, I don't know if it was a red cell concentration, I don't remember, but I had the right test done at a certain time, and they showed I was low in manganese. And that was also in coherent with the food restrictions that I have, that I don't get enough manganese. So manganese is one of those also I had felt helped a lot. Plus they also manganese helped a lot on my. I had a lot of problem with hot flashes, my estrogen.
Oh,
So when I get enough manganese, I don't have all these hot flashes.
I'm going to put a
But
caveat
it's
here about the manganese. In amalgam illness, Andy says, be careful with manganese and
yeah,
try it extremely cautiously because it's,
yeah. And he also writes only take it if you are having a test which shows you're low.
okay, well, there
And
you go.
that's also why I thought of, well, I'll try it then. Yeah. So that was two two things that has really helped me a lot.
So you're feeling a lot better. I'm glad to
Much,
hear
much,
that.
much, much better. Much,
Much
much
better.
better.
How
Yeah.
many years of chelation have you done altogether?
All together, chelation rounds.
I mean, since you got your specs removed.
Oh, how many have I done? I have done
It's good to hear that.
my big moment. Bum, 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 bum. 40 plus 180
I see that you
plus.
keep
It's
record.
200 rounds,
Yeah, yeah.
I think. Yeah.
That's like a good 4 years worth.
Yeah.
Well, you're a good illustration of how to persist through
Yeah.
thick and thin, which people have to do because I mean the symptoms profile of this thing is just so complex and it's
Yeah.
different for everybody. But
Yeah.
my advice is the main thing that people have to do is find a way to chelate and just keep it
Yeah.
lackably, and everything else you do
Yeah.
is to try and readjust your
Yeah.
body to deal with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think I learned early in my process that I had to register and monitor because of the early, very acute Mercury terrifying
And it's
experience.
terrifying. Yeah.
And then I thought I started actually make a diary, and I have done since then. I have daily made registrations about my symptoms.
I wish
Also,
I
pardon?
always tell people to do that, but I rarely did it myself. But it's just
Yeah,
fascinating to be able to look back at a diary.
I couldn't have controlled this process without. It would have been impossible.
Well, you're scientifically inclined. I'm sort of a
Yeah, I'm very systematic and methodical, but I wouldn't have been able. I think I would have been lost if I didn't had that capacity because I was really, really, really,
really, really.
really ill, very ill. Yeah,
Well, thank you.
and
I'm gonna, yeah. Thank
so
you.
I can only recommend people to try and make at least write down when they start taking one supplements and the
I
one
tell
when
them
they
that, though I
increase
haven't been really
those.
good at it.
Pardon?
I tell people to do that, though I haven't been
Yeah,
really good at that myself.
yeah. So if, but it would help a lot.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
All right, Lise, thank you so much. I think that you're a good example of someone who's really hung in there and gotten better with a
yeah,
complicated symptom profile.
Yeah.
All right then.
I'm it had, for me, it has been a matter of life or death, simply. I knew that was on stake. So, or actually, the death of my brain, I knew that it would go really wrong if I didn't do
Look at how
something.
many people have dementia after
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah. Also because I could feel as I got demented when I had the acute.
too. Me too. I
It
was
was
demented
horrible.
too, but I think that now I have my marbles, and that's a.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to
Yeah,
stop.
you're welcome. I hope people get inspired and get started taking the
I hope
first step
so
on the
too.
ladder.
Take the first step on the ladder, guys.